Some people move through life like nothing can touch them. A terrible day at work, they don't even flinch. Someone shows them disrespect, they keep walking forward. Life throws them curveballs and they just keep moving, like it's no big deal. Meanwhile, most of us get thrown off by the smallest things. A weird text message, someone cutting us off in traffic, a random comment online, and suddenly we're in a bad mood, overthinking everything. It feels like we have no control over how we feel. But here's the truth. You do have control. You just haven't been taught how to use it yet. The people who stay calm and unbothered, they've learned something powerful. Something the ancient Stoics understood a long time ago. When you stop letting the outside world decide how you feel inside, you become free. You become strong. You become untouchable. And that's what this video is really about. How to stop caring about things that don't deserve your energy. How to stop reacting and start living with real peace. If that sounds like something you need in your life, take a second to subscribe and leave a comment below. It's free, and it helps this message reach more people like you. Now let's get into it. But before we dive deep, I want you to understand something. What we're about to explore isn't just philosophy, it's practical wisdom. It's real tools you can use right now today. Tools that have been tested for thousands of years. Tools that have helped people through wars, through loss, through every kind of challenge you can imagine. And they can help you too, if you're willing to practice, if you're willing to try, if you're willing to change. So as we go through this, don't just listen. Think about your own life. Think about your own triggers. Think about your own reactions. And ask yourself, what would it feel like to be free from all of that? What would it feel like to be untouchable? That's what we're working toward. That's what's possible for you. That's what the Stoics knew was possible for everyone. The nature of perception. Most pain begins in stories, not in reality itself. Have you ever stopped to think how much of what bothers you isn't even real? Not in the way you think, at least. You're not reacting to the world. You're reacting to what you think the world means. A look, a tone, a delay in someone's response. It's not the event itself that hurts. It's the story you attach to it. Let me give you a real example. Imagine you send a text to someone and they don't reply for hours. What happens in your mind? You start creating stories. Maybe they're ignoring you. Maybe they're mad at you. Maybe they don't care about you. But here's the truth. You don't know why they didn't reply. You're just making up stories. And those stories are causing you pain. Not the lack of reply. The story you're telling yourself about the lack of reply. That's the key insight. That's what the Stoics understood. The event itself is neutral. It's your interpretation that creates the suffering. It's your judgment that causes the pain. It's your story that triggers the reaction. And that's the part no one teaches us growing up. We're taught to respond to what we see, but never told to question how we're seeing it. Here's where people get stuck. We walk around saying things like, "He made me feel stupid," or "That ruined my day." But pause for a second. Did the person make you feel that way? Or did you assign meaning to their words and let that meaning run wild in your head? The ancient Stoics said it plainly. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about those things. That wasn't just philosophy, it was psychology. Centuries before psychology had a name. Let's say you're at the gym. Someone glances at you and frowns. Instantly, your brain kicks in. Are they judging me? Is it how I look? Am I doing something wrong? But maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they weren't even looking at you. Maybe they were thinking about something completely unrelated. Maybe they were just lost in thought. But your brain doesn't wait for the facts. It jumps to conclusions. It creates worst-case scenarios. It assumes the worst. And all of this happens in a matter of seconds. Before you even realize what's happening, you're already spiraling. You're already feeling hurt. You're already reacting. And yet within seconds, you've launched into a full mental spiral over a guess. A guess that might be completely wrong. A story that might have no basis in reality at all. A story, a narrative you built out of thin air. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's exactly what's happening here. You're not responding to truth. You're responding to projection. Most of us don't see the world clearly. We see it through a fog made of past hurts, past rejections, fears we never dealt with. If your heart's been broken, you see love through suspicion. If you've been criticized, you hear judgment in every neutral comment. It's like trying to navigate with a cracked lens. Everything feels personal, even when it isn't. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." That wasn't about philosophy class. It was about taking responsibility for your lens. Because until you do, you'll stay trapped in a cycle of reaction where every little thing feels like a threat. And every time you react without pausing, you reinforce the idea that you're powerless, that you're at the mercy of the world. But you're not. That's the illusion. The world can poke, but only you decide if it hurts. What's actually happening is this. Your brain is running an old program. It sees something, it labels it, it reacts automatically. But what if you could rewrite the code? What if instead of reacting, you pause? That tiny space between stimulus and response. That's where your power lives. Think about it this way. When someone says something hurtful, there's a moment, just a split second, before you react. In that moment, you have a choice. You can let the old program run, or you can pause and choose differently. Most people never even notice that moment. They go straight from trigger to reaction. They're on autopilot. They're running old scripts. They're playing out patterns they learned years ago. But the people who've mastered themselves, they've learned to live in that space. They've learned to breathe there, to think there, to choose there. They've learned to interrupt the automatic response. They've learned to create space for something new to emerge. That's where transformation happens. Not in big dramatic moments, but in those tiny spaces between what happens and how you respond. And the beautiful thing is, you can start practicing this right now. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start noticing those moments. Start creating those spaces. Start choosing differently, one moment at a time, one pause at a time, one choice at a time. The power of the pause. Your whole life can shift in the space of one breath. Aristotle once said, "Anyone can become angry, that is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not easy." That quote holds the key to emotional intelligence. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about choosing how and when to let it move through you. Consciously, not compulsively. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think emotional intelligence means suppressing emotions. But that's not it at all. Emotional intelligence means feeling your emotions fully, but choosing how to express them. It means recognizing the emotion, understanding where it comes from, and then deciding what to do with it. Not letting it control you, but not ignoring it either. It's a middle path, a balanced approach, a wise way of being. And that's what Aristotle was pointing to. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Not the suppression of feeling, but the intelligent expression of it. That's the real goal. That's the real freedom. Here's the move that will change your life. Start questioning everything you feel. Not in a cynical way, but with curiosity. When something upsets you, pause and ask, is this really about them, or is this touching something inside me? That question alone can break the spell. It stops the old pattern and invites a new way of seeing. Instead of living like a puppet pulled by every trigger, you start living like a person, clear, grounded, centered. Plato believed that reality is but a shadow of the truth. In other words, most of what you think is real is just a version of it shaped by your mind. So ask yourself, is this moment truth or just my interpretation of it? And if it's just a story, do I still want to keep telling it? The people who stay calm under pressure, the ones who don't get rattled by petty stuff, they're not cold, they're clear. They've trained themselves to stop giving automatic reactions. And the more they practice that pause, the more space they create inside themselves. That space becomes peace. That peace becomes strength. That strength becomes a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. And here's the beauty of it all. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware. Every time you catch yourself spiraling and choose not to follow the thought, you win. Every time you pause instead of explode, you grow. Every time you challenge the story instead of swallowing it whole, you reclaim your mind. So next time something pushes your buttons, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what inside me is letting this affect me? That's where the real work begins. That's how you go from being a puppet of your emotions to being the quiet master of your mind. Stoicism wasn't about being emotionless. It was about mastering emotion so that nothing and no one controls your peace again. And that is real freedom. But here's what most people miss. This pause isn't just about stopping. It's about creating space for something better to emerge. When you pause, you're not just avoiding a reaction. You're creating room for wisdom to enter, for clarity to settle, for the right response to form. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes. At first, you might catch yourself after you've already reacted. That's okay. That's progress. Then you'll catch yourself in the middle of reacting. Better. Then you'll catch yourself right before you react. Even better. And eventually you'll find yourself pausing naturally without even thinking about it. That's when the pause becomes a part of who you are. Not something you do, but something you are. And when that happens, everything changes. You're no longer fighting against your reactions. You're no longer struggling to control yourself. You're just naturally pausing, naturally choosing, naturally being free. That's the goal. That's the destination. That's what's possible for you. But remember, it's a journey, not a quick fix. It's a practice, not a performance. So be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And keep practicing. Keep pausing. Keep choosing. Because every moment is a new opportunity to become more free. The control panel of triggers. Your reactions aren't random. They're being programmed every single day. From the moment you were old enough to understand words, You were being trained, and not in a good way. You were taught that your value depends on what others think of you, that fitting in matters more than being at peace, that your worth is measured in likes, approval, and applause. And the wild part, you didn't even notice it happening. None of us did. It was the water we were swimming in. School, parents, media, culture, all pointing you in one direction. Care what people think and care a lot. It's no accident. This wasn't just personal conditioning. It's systemic. The world around you is built to keep you reactive. Think about it. Social media algorithms don't reward clarity or calm. They reward outrage, conflict, comparison. You scroll and suddenly you feel like your life isn't enough, like you're behind, like you're missing out. Why? Because that emotion keeps you hooked. Every comment, every post, it's designed to keep your attention tied to external validation. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. But we chase those opinions anyway, as if they define us. We check our phones constantly for likes and comments. We measure our worth by how many people follow us. We base our happiness on external validation. And the more we do this, the more we give away our power. The more we let others control how we feel. The more we become dependent on things we can't control. That's the trap. That's the system. That's what keeps us reactive. But here's the thing. You don't have to play that game. You don't have to chase those opinions. You don't have to measure yourself by external standards. You can choose differently. You can choose to value your own opinion of yourself. You can choose to measure your life by your standards. You can choose to find validation from within, not outside. And when you do that, everything starts to shift. When you do that, you begin to feel free. And it doesn't stop there. Marketing is a psychological game. Entire industries exist to first sell you a problem, then sell you the cure. You're too old, too young, too quiet, too loud, too broke, too behind. The message is always the same. You're not enough unless you buy this. And the more insecure you are, the easier you are to sell. That's why your emotional reactivity isn't just a flaw. It's a profit model. The more easily you're triggered, the more predictable you become. The more predictable you are, the more profitable you become. Carl Jung nailed it when he said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And what better distraction from your own soul than being constantly dragged by other people's drama, opinions, and expectations? If you're always reacting, you never sit still enough to hear your own thoughts. You never stop and ask, what do I actually want? What truly matters to me? Now let's talk about relationships, because some of the people closest to you, maybe even without realizing it, feed off your emotional reactions. Toxic dynamics thrive when you explode, panic, or doubt yourself. They depend on your reactivity. If they know how to push your buttons, they know how to guide you. They know how to control you. And that's the uncomfortable truth. The more emotionally reactive you are, the easier you are to manipulate. The moment someone learns what sets you off, they've got you on a leash. Plato once warned us, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." But the question you need to ask is, who actually holds power over you? Now picture this. Picture a giant control panel strapped across your chest. Every button is clearly labeled: insecurity, anger, fear, jealousy, guilt. And everyone around you knows exactly which one to press. Someone slams the insecurity button, and boom, you're spiraling. Someone taps anger and suddenly you're shouting. That's how most people live. Exposed, vulnerable, easy to provoke, easy to move. But here's the shift. Imagine unplugging that control panel completely. Imagine someone says something nasty and you simply don't react. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fire back. You don't even feel it in the same way anymore. That's not indifference. That's power. Socrates said, "He who is not a good servant will not be a good master." If you can't manage your own emotions, how can you ever hope to lead your life clearly? When you unplug from the need to react, you gain a kind of freedom most people never taste. You're not rushing to explain yourself. You're not overthinking texts. You're not taking things personally that were never about you. You become steady like a rock in a storm. People start to notice you, not because you're loud, but because your peace doesn't shake. And yes, some people might call you cold. Let them. What they don't understand is that what looks like detachment is actually discipline. It's you choosing carefully where your energy goes. It's you refusing to hand out your peace of mind like it's free candy. Aristotle said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." And when you know who you really are, when you're anchored in that, nobody else's noise can move you far. So no, you're not heartless for not reacting. You're not rude for protecting your energy. You're just done letting people play with your inner world like it's theirs to control. You've unplugged the panel. You've taken back the controls. And in a world addicted to chaos and noise, that kind of calm is a superpower. But here's the deeper truth. When you unplug from reactivity, you're not just protecting yourself, you're also protecting others. Because when you're not reactive, you're not feeding the chaos, you're not adding fuel to the fire, you're not spreading the drama further. Instead, you become a source of calm, a place of peace, a shelter in the storm, and people notice that. They're drawn to it. Not because you're loud or flashy, but because you're steady, because you're real, because you're free. And that freedom is contagious. When others see you living without the constant need to react and defend, they start to wonder. Maybe they can do it too. Maybe they don't have to live at the mercy of every trigger. Maybe they have power too. That's how real change spreads. Not through force or argument, but through example, through living differently, through being the calm in someone else's storm. Before we continue, if this is resonating with you, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications. It's free for you, and it helps this message reach more people who need this calm. Also, drop a comment below and share which part speaks to you most. Your reflections help us shape future videos for you. Now let's get back to it. Understanding true detachment. Some people think staying calm means you've stopped caring, that you're passive, weak, emotionally shut down, cold, distant, closed off from life. But let's clear that up right now. Real detachment isn't about caring less. It's about caring wisely. It's about refusing to let every little thing hijack your peace. Because the truth is, the more reactive you are, the more control the world has over you. And if everything gets to you, you'll never have the energy to focus on what matters. The Stoics had a word for this state, apatheia. Not apathy in the modern sense, not I don't care at all, but a deep inner calm where your soul stays untouched by chaos. It's the ability to let the world move around you without always moving through you. Picture yourself like a strong tree in wind. The wind is there, the noise is real, but you don't snap every time it blows. You stand rooted, present, powerful. That's what real detachment feels like. But let me clarify something important. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means you care about the right things. It means you invest your energy in what truly matters. It means you protect your peace so you have the capacity to care deeply where it counts. Think of it like this. If you're constantly reacting to every little thing, you'll have no energy left for what truly matters. Your relationships will suffer. Your work will suffer. Your health will suffer. Because you're too busy chasing triggers to focus on what's important. But when you learn to detach from the noise, you free up energy for what actually matters. You can care more deeply about your relationships. You can focus more fully on your work. You can invest more completely in your health. That's the real power of detachment. Not caring less, but caring better. Not being cold, but being clear. Not being distant, but being free. Step 1 in building that kind of strength: observe, don't absorb. Let's say you walk into a room and it's tense. People are snapping at each other. You feel heaviness in the air. You might have immediately soaked it up. Gotten irritated, defensive, stressed out without knowing why. But the wiser version of you notice the tension without letting it enter you. You say, okay, they're going through something. But you don't make it yours. Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That quote hits hard when you realize most of what bothers you isn't personal. It's projection. Now let's talk about the power of silence. Master the pause. This might be one of the most underrated skills in the modern world, because the moment someone throws shade, we're conditioned to clap back, defend ourselves, prove our worth. But what if instead of reacting, you paused? Just a breath, just a beat. You hold the silence, not because you're afraid, but because you're in control. That space between what they say and what you do next, that's where all your power lives. Marcus Aurelius said it best. If you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That pause is your power to revoke, and this is crucial to understand. You have the power to revoke your emotional response at any moment, not by suppressing it, but by seeing through it, not by denying it, but by understanding it. When you realize that your pain comes from your estimate of the event, not from the event itself, you gain incredible power because you can change your estimate. You can change your perspective. You can change your story. And when you change your story, you change your experience. That's the real power. That's the real freedom. That's what Marcus was pointing to. And here's where things really shift. Starve the drama, because drama feeds on your attention. Gossip spreads when people keep biting. Arguments explode when both sides keep lighting the fuse. Toxic people thrive on your reaction. But when you stop giving them that energy, when you stop feeding the beast, it weakens and eventually it dies. Aristotle once said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. But here's the twist. It's not about silence for approval. It's about silence for strength. You're not avoiding conflict. You're refusing to participate in nonsense. Now let's be honest. This isn't easy, especially in a world that rewards big reactions. The louder, angrier, more dramatic you are, the more attention you often get. But that kind of attention is empty. It's a sugar rush, fleeting and shallow. The people who are actually strong, they're the quiet ones, the ones who aren't ruled by every opinion, insult, or minor setback. Socrates taught that self-control is the foundation of wisdom. He wasn't wrong. When you control your reactions, you're not just avoiding problems, you're building depth, character, substance. So no, being unbothered doesn't mean you're cold or distant. It means you've grown. It means you've reached a place where you know your peace is too expensive to give away. You've realized not every situation deserves your energy. Not every argument needs your voice. Not every insult deserves a response. Some things are just noise. And when you stop dancing to the chaos starts fading. Here's the mindset shift. Not everything is about you. Not every tone, look, or delay is a personal attack. And even if it is, that doesn't mean it needs a reaction. You get to choose what enters your mind, what deserves space in your day. And the more you practice this, the lighter you become, and the stronger, the more grounded you begin to feel. Like the world can spin all it wants, but you stay still. You're clear, you're solid. So when someone tells you you've changed, just smile. Because yes, you have. You're not here to be pulled into every fire. You're here to walk through flames without burning. And that, my friend, is what it means to be untouchable. Stoicism doesn't ask you to ignore life. It asks you to master your response to it. And once you do that, once you stop letting everything get to you, that's when you finally start living on your own terms. But let me give you a practical example. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone makes a comment that feels like a personal attack. You would immediately feel the heat rise. Your heart would race. You start building a defense in your head. Maybe you'd even interrupt to defend yourself. But the new you, the one who's learned to pause, you take a breath. You notice the feeling. You recognize it's just a feeling. You don't have to act on it. You can let it pass. And in that space, you realize something. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're projecting their own stuff. Maybe it's not even about you. And even if it is about you, you don't have to react. You can respond later when you're calm and clear, or you can choose not to respond at all. Because not everything deserves your energy. Not every comment needs a reply. Not every attack needs a defense. That's the power of the pause. That's the power of detachment. That's the power of freedom. Mastering the art of non-reaction. There comes a moment, quiet, almost unnoticeable, when something inside you clicks. It's not dramatic. No fireworks, no soundtrack rising in the background. Just a simple shift, like breathing clean air for the first time in years. It's the moment you stop caring, not in a careless or cold-hearted way, but in a wise, measured, deeply freeing way. You stop handing out pieces of yourself to things that don't deserve them. And the world? It starts to change around you. At first it's subtle. People who used to poke at your insecurities back off. That comment that once would have haunted you for hours, it rolls off. The mental tug of war you've been playing with people, problems, past regrets, begins to loosen. You start noticing how much of your stress was self-made. How many battles were with shadows? Most of the stuff that once consumed your energy. It wasn't real in the way you thought it was. Your reaction, your attachment, your story. And now, without that reaction, life feels lighter. That's the power of emotional stillness. The Stoics believed that tranquility is one of the highest goods. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The minute you stop reacting to everything, the outside world loses its grip on your emotions. That's when real strength starts to show up. Not loud or aggressive, but quiet, calm, immovable. But here's the challenge. Most of us were trained to react since childhood. You feel stressed, you panic, someone criticizes you, you jump to defend, you fail at something, you spiral into shame. It's like your brain came with pre-installed scripts. Life presses a certain button, and boom, you're replaying the same scene you've lived 100 times. But what if you rewrote the code? What if stress showed up, and your first move was a slow breath? No frantic scramble, just one conscious breath. What if criticism landed, and instead of rushing to justify yourself, you simply stayed calm? Not because you're passive, but because it doesn't own you. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Once you do that, criticism loses its teeth because you're no longer trying to perform a version of yourself for others. Reprogramming your emotional responses doesn't mean becoming numb. It means becoming free. Each time you interrupt an automatic reaction and move the other way, each time you choose calm over chaos, grace over defensiveness, you're building a new mental pathway. Slowly your brain learns. We don't do panic anymore. We don't do drama. We do presence, power, peace. But reprogramming doesn't happen overnight. It's not a switch you flip once. It's a muscle you build slowly. Every time you pause instead of react, you strengthen that muscle. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you reinforce that pathway. Just like physical training, it gets easier with practice. What once demanded all your mental energy starts to feel natural. What once felt impossible becomes your new default. That's how transformation works. Not in one dramatic moment, but in thousands of small, quiet choices. Each pause, each choice, each moment of awareness adds up over time. And one day, you look back and realize you're not pretending anymore. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're simply different, not because you forced it, but because you practiced it. Day after day, moment after moment, choice after choice. That's how you rewrite the code. That's how you become free. And remember this isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aware. You will still react sometimes. You will still slip back into old patterns sometimes. That's human. That's normal. The point isn't to never fall. The point is to notice when you do and choose differently next time. Awareness, not perfection, is the real key. And the more you practice that, the more natural it becomes, the more automatic it feels. Until one day you realize you're not even trying anymore. You're just being. You're just living. You're just free. Rewriting your mental programming. Here's a question that can change everything. What story are you telling yourself right now? Every emotion is tied to a narrative. If you see yourself as a victim, you'll carry constant pain. If you see yourself as the villain, you'll carry heavy shame. But if you decide you're the hero of your own story, then every setback becomes a plot twist. Every insult becomes fuel. Every hard moment becomes part of your rise. Plato once said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." Conquering yourself begins with owning your story. When something triggers you, pause and ask, what frame am I using here? You can't always control the facts of a situation, but you can always choose the frame. That choice, made repeatedly, reshapes your emotional landscape. Now let's talk about one of the sharpest tools you have inside you, disarming people without lifting a finger. There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't come from shouting back, but from smiling and staying still. When someone tries to insult you and you agree calmly on your own terms, it confuses them. It unplugs their power source. You're too quiet. Yeah, I like my peace. You don't care, do you? Not about things that don't matter. You think you're better than everyone. I just try to be better than I was yesterday. You're not dodging the jab. You're catching it mid-air and dissolving it. That's real disarming. Socrates once said, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame to grow old without seeing the strength your body is capable of." The same thing applies to the mind. Why grow old without training your emotions? Why spend a lifetime being ruled by reactions? When you stop caring about meaningless noise, you gain space to care deeply about what truly matters. You stop wasting energy defending yourself, and you start investing it in building yourself. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours. You stop proving things to people already decided about you. You stop entertaining drama designed to pull you down. And you start living differently. You walk into rooms with presence, not pressure. You show up to situations with clarity, not fear. You become the person who doesn't just survive the storm. You are the calm in the middle of it. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you finally care about the right things. That shift is rare. Most people never get there. But if you keep practicing these small, subtle shifts, if you keep questioning your reactions, rewriting your scripts, choosing your peace over your pride, then one day you'll look back and realize you didn't just survive your life, you mastered it. The hero's narrative. Every hero story has a turning point. The moment the hero stops being pushed around by the world outside and starts living from strength inside. When you stop letting the world control your reactions, you don't become colder, you become clearer, calmer, stronger. That's the quiet kind of power no one can take from you. Once you taste it, there's no going back. If this message spoke to something in you, there's another video on the screen right now that will take you even deeper. But before we wrap up, let me leave you with one final thought. The journey to emotional freedom isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming present. It's about recognizing that in every moment you have a choice. You can react or you can respond. You can be triggered or you can be free. The ancient Stoics understood this. They knew true strength comes not from controlling the world, but from mastering your response to it. That's what makes you untouchable. Not because nothing can affect you, but because you've learned to choose what you let in. You've learned to pause, to question, to observe. You've learned to rewrite the stories that no longer serve you. In doing that, you reclaim your power, you reclaim your peace, you reclaim your life. The art of disarming. The world doesn't really want you calm. It wants you reactive, impulsive, easily offended, easily steered. That's what keeps the wheel spinning. But when you stop giving that reaction, you break the cycle. You stop being a puppet and start becoming the author of your reality. That's Stoicism in action, not just theory, but daily practice. Every time you choose not to react, you are training your mind. Every time you protect your energy, you reinforce your freedom. In that quiet space between what happens and how you respond, you realize something profound. Nothing outside you can truly control you unless you hand it the keys. This is the foundation of everything we've explored. When you really internalize this, everything else begins to fall into place. The pause becomes natural, the questioning becomes automatic, the peace becomes steady, even under pressure. And that's when you truly become untouchable. Not in a way that makes you cold, but in a way that makes you free. Free from the opinions of others. Free from the need to prove yourself. Free from the drama that once consumed you. Free to focus on what matters. Free to live life on your own terms. That's the real goal. That's what the Stoics were pointing to. Not a life without emotion, but a life where emotion doesn't own you. Not a life without challenges, but a life where challenges don't break you. Not a life without triggers, but a life where triggers don't control you. That's the path. That's the practice. That's the power. The quiet path to freedom. Let's be clear. This isn't about being a doormat. It's not about letting people walk over you. It's not about being passive or weak. It's about being so strong, you don't need to advertise it. So secure, you don't need to defend it. So clear, you can see through the noise. When someone tries to trigger you and you don't react, you're not being weak. You're showing them their words don't have power over you. Their drama doesn't own you. That's the real power move. Not shouting back, not proving anything, just staying calm, just staying clear, just staying free. Because when they can't trigger you, they can't control you. When they can't get a reaction, they can't get power. When they can't push your buttons, they have nothing left to push. That's when they back off. Not because you fought, but because you didn't. That's the art of disarming. That's the power of non-reaction. That's the freedom you've been seeking. Stoicism doesn't ask you to ignore life. It asks you to master your response to it. And once you begin to live that way, once you stop letting everything get to you, that's when you finally start living on your own terms. This isn't about being emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent, recognizing you have agency, you have choice, you have power, not from controlling others, but from controlling yourself, from understanding your triggers, from questioning your reactions, from choosing your responses. That's what makes you truly untouchable, not because you're invincible, but because you're aware. And when you're aware, you can choose. You can choose peace over drama, growth over reaction, freedom over control. That's the quiet path. That's the Stoic way, and it's available to you right now. All you have to do is pause. All you have to do is question. All you have to do is choose. Choose your peace. Choose your power. Choose your freedom. That's the path forward. That's the way out. That's how you become untouchable. And remember, this is a practice, not something you achieve once and forget. It's something you live every single day. Every interaction is practice. Every moment is practice. Every breath is practice. The more you practice, the more natural it feels, the more automatic it becomes, until one day you realize you're not forcing it. You're just being. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Stoic Ocean for more content like this. Drop a comment below and tell me what spoke to you most. And if someone you know needs this message, share this video with them. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and keep walking the quiet path. You're just living. You're just free. And that's when you know you've really integrated this. Not because you never get triggered again, but because when you do, you know how to hold it. Not because you stop feeling emotions, but because you know how to move with them. Not because you're perfect, but because you're aware. And that awareness changes everything. It's the foundation of real freedom. It's the key to becoming untouchable. So keep practicing, keep pausing, keep choosing, keep growing. Because every moment is a new chance to return to your center. Every interaction is a quiet opportunity to practice peace. Every day is one more step on this quiet path toward freedom. When you stop letting the world steer your reactions, you don't become colder. You become clearer, calmer, stronger. That's the kind of power no one can take away from you. Once you taste it, you don't want to go back. Stoicism doesn't ask you to escape life. It invites you to master your response to it. And when you stop letting everything in, that's when you finally start living on your own terms. If this message spoke to something in you, I invite you to stay on this journey with us. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Drop a comment below and share the part that resonated most with you. Not just for the algorithm, but so others can see they're not alone in this. And if someone you know needs this calm, share this video with them too. Thank you for watching, for thinking deeper, and for being part of Stoic Ocean. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and keep walking the quiet path.